Australia were 373 runs away from the target when Travis Head got out in the 4th innings of Perth. Yet, Jasprit Bumrah and Virat Kohli celebrated that wicket with incredible passion. And they had good reason to. It was a terrific delivery. But far more important was that it was Travis Head's wicket. When he is at the crease, it feels like anything is possible, even a chase like that. Right now, regardless of the colour of the ball, Bumrah and Head are the 2 best male cricketers on the planet. Head's scoring rate is like an unstoppable force, and that's meeting the immovable object that is Bumrah's pinpoint accuracy. In this series, it feels like Head needs to make all of Australia's runs and Bumrah all of India's wickets. The final 2 tests of this series feel like a heavyweight contest just between these 2 players. So far, Bumrah has been taking body blows from the Australian. Now it is simple for both him and India. They just need to aim for the head.
As a cricket journalist, I would travel sometimes up to 200 days a year. I loved watching cricket games. I loved going to new countries. It was an absolute dream. But there was one thing I hated more than anything else about it, and it was this little pin. The thing that I need to change my SIM card in every new country. The absolute worst thing about this pin and SIM cards is when I was traveling to the West Indies, of having to arrive in every new island or country and having to work out if I could still find this pin and then line up and get my SIM card in every single airport. Well, now we have the answer thanks to Sally. They can make it so you never have to worry about this nonsense ever again. They use an eSIM app that once you install once, it is easy, simple, and cheap. Oh, and it works in more than 160 countries. And you can throw these pins away forever, because now you just need to download the Sally app before your trip. And if you do it with our code, Good Areas, you get an exclusive 15% discount on Sally eSIM data plans. So before your next holiday or work trip or any time you have to travel to another country, download the Sally app and use the code Good Areas, or one word, at checkout, and you can travel like a pro with Sally.
Both Head and Bumrah debuted in international cricket in 2016. They made their test debuts in 2018. The Indian quickly established himself as one of India's best seamers in tests, forming a trio with Ishant Sharma and Mohammad Shami. The first time these 2 players went up against each other was in the 1819 Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Head scored 33 runs off 103 deliveries and was dismissed just the once. That wicket came at the MCG, where Bumrah bowled a terrific in-swinger that crashed into his stumps. That would be one of his 21 wickets in that series, the joint highest with Nathan Lyon. Head was Australia's 2nd highest run scorer, but honestly, he averaged less than 35 in that series. Their next face-off would be in the Melbourne Test of 2020, where Head again gets out to Bumrah after scoring 17 from 23 balls. He was dropped from the playing 11 after that match and only returned in the Ashes the next year. And it's worth noting that he was vice-captain when he was let go. Nobody has ever taken this many wickets in tests at a lower average. When Bumrah passed Sydney Barnes' 189 wickets, he realistically became the best bowler statistically we has ever seen with this long a career. If you add Barnes back in, he's still the 2nd best bowler ever. Of course, the Englishman delivered both seam and spin. And Bumrah has elements of that as well. He can set up a batter like a spinner, and he also has wrists like a spinner and a cutter that is basically an off spinner. And where he's different from Barnes is Bumrah is not a spinner, but a fast bowler who can use some of the skills from spin to be very good in all conditions. Travis Head does not have any of this kind of pedigree. Coming into this series, he hadn't made many test runs of recent times. He's been in and out of the Australian team in all formats. But in the last 2 years, he is probably the best all-format batter in the world. And more importantly, he is one of the quickest scorers in every single format. Test cricket specifically, his scoring rate has gone up by over 30 points. People do not usually do that. Head is the highest run scorer in the series by a distance. No one else has 250, and he's over 400. KL Rahul is 2nd, and he's had a spectacular series on the down low. But Rahul has faced more balls than Head for nowhere near the amount of runs. Obviously, batting at 5 is much easier, but Rahul has also not had to face Bumrah. And Head is still 2nd on the list of balls faced. The Aussie number 5 is scoring a lot of runs at a rapid pace while staying in for long periods of time. Almost no other Australian batter averages more than 20 against Bumrah in this series. And Cummins is the only one who has a strike rate of over 50. Travis Head averages 42 while striking at almost a run a ball. This is an extraordinary performance against a bowler who is at the peak of his extraordinary powers. Plus, it's in bowler-friendly conditions when the rest of the top order has not been amongst the runs. So if you can crack the Bumrah code, performing well against the rest of the Indian bowling is not as big a challenge, especially when you're the man they call Trav Ball. Siraj has dismissed him twice and Rana once. He strikes at 110 and 143 against them in this series. And he hasn't gotten out to the other bowlers, while clocking a strike rate of over 60 against all of them. Ashwin was supposed to trouble him, and perhaps if Siraj had taken that catch, he would have. Instead, he still got away with it all and still scored from Ashwin at a fast rate for like a normal player, especially for a left-hander. We've already talked about the dismissal in the second innings at Perth, where he was 89 off 101, chasing an improbable fourth innings target. In that knock, he scored 15 runs off 26 balls against Bumrah. But in the following game, we saw what he could do against the best bowler on the planet. His first century of the series came in the pink ball game at his home ground. The left-hander scored 140 off 141 balls in the 10-wicket win. Bumrah bowled the first 5 balls that he faced, and he hit a cover drive for 4. But that was the end of the fast bowler's spell in the first session of day 2. By the time he came back into the attack after dinner, Head was well set at 53 from 70. In his 4-over spell, the Australian scored a run a ball 11 off him, including 2 fours. After the second new ball is taken, he hits another couple of boundaries against Bumrah in the very first over. If you go through to the Gabba test, he scores 152 quite quickly. He scored 33 runs off just 34 balls against the leader of India's attack. And it's important to remember that he came in when the score was 75 for 3, but after 33.2 overs. He smashed 4 boundaries and scored a high percentage of his runs on the leg side. In the end, Bumrah did actually end up getting a nick behind. But of course, by that stage, Australia pretty much owned that game. Even in the second innings, when Australia were 18 for 3, Head came in and hit a 4 through mid-wicket, and then another one behind point in the 4 balls that he faced from Bumrah. So it'd be hard to say at the moment that Head isn't easily winning the battle against Bumrah. But of course, it's not just about Test cricket for these two. These were the 2 players who were dominant in each of the 3 white ball tournaments, the World Cup, the IPL, and the T20 World Cup, from October 23 until June 2024. And if you look at them by format, you see that in every single one, Head is scoring off Bumrah at a very good clip. Over 60 in Test matches, more than 140 in T20s, and almost as high in ODIs. When you factor in Bumrah's normal record, you can see that Head is not just faster in every format, but way quicker than anyone else. He could score off Bumrah, and no one could score off Bumrah. And he can do it whether it's a red ball, a pink ball, a white ball. They haven't made a ball at the moment where Bumrah can slow him down. And the Test numbers here look like he doesn't dominate him as much, but he is still 35% than other players when he's facing Bumrah in Test matches. In ODIs though, that goes to 76% quicker than the rest of cricket combined. A target of 241s in the World Cup final seems low. But we are talking about batting under the lights against Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, and Mohammad Siraj. At times, no one was scoring anything off those guys. You've also got 100,000 people who are expecting India to win this World Cup. But Travis Head, he's different. He smashes 2 fours in his first 4 balls against Bumrah in the first over of the innings, and Australia score 15 from that. But of course, there is a counterpunch from the Indian pacer. He is so close to Head's outside edge for the 4th ball of the 3rd over. And Bumrah's 3rd over is a wicket maiden as Mitchell Marsh is dismissed. The following one, he gets Steve Smith, and Indian fans now start to believe. Shami and Bumrah actually keep things quiet over the next couple of overs, but Head gets 2 fours away to close out the power play. By the time Bumrah comes back in the 28th over, the game is well in control. That is thanks to Head and Manas's fire and ice partnership. Head flicks the ball, hits it down the ground, and pulls one to get 3 fours in the over. The match is almost gone now. That is pretty much the game. Eventually, Travis Head is dismissed with just 2 runs to go, but he has won the battle against India's best, but more importantly, the World Cup for his country. To Indian fans, the false shots early on would feel like the gap between them and the trophy. About 6 months later, the 2 teams go up against each other again in what is a must-win match for Australia if they're going to reach the World Cup semi-finals in the T20 edition. Chasing 206, Head responds with 76 from 43. But he doesn't get really any support along the way. And when they needed another 56 from 22 balls, Bumrah's slower one gets his wicket, caught by Rohit Sharma. Some may say that is poetic. It meant that Australia would have to rely on the result of the Afghanistan-Bangladesh game. 5 days later, India won their first global title in 11 years. Travis Head says that batting against Bumrah is reacting well and being positive. I figure other people have tried that as well. But not necessarily trying to score runs off every ball, but being in a better position to play the forward defense, leave, or present the face of the bat. Weirdly, Head has actually faced him quite a lot, the 6th most in international cricket. And those who have been up against him a lot have done okay. That is probably because there is no way to practice for Jasprit Bumrah. He is a one of one. So if you do face him a lot, you can get a little bit used to him. Joe Root might have thoughts on this, as he's done it a lot more than anyone else now. Though, so is Usman Khawaja, and he can't make runs or stay in. In this series, some things have gone Head's way. He's great against Bumrah often when he's facing him at the end of the first or second spell. He did come into bat for the 5th over when he made the 89 in Perth, but of course the steam was out of that game a little bit at that point. But the 2 other times he came in early, he got out for 11 and 17. Now, it's hard to read too much into the dismissal in the second innings at the Gabba, because Australia was playing funny buggers. But both of his hundreds came in when he walked out to bat in overs 41 and 33. And so the ball was old, even if Australia didn't actually have that many runs on the board. Now, that doesn't mean all that much for most batters. No matter when they go up against Bumrah, they struggle. They can be set, have a soggy ball, or even if he was coming into bowl wrapped in a straight jacket, he would probably still get the vast majority of players out. But specifically, Head's ability to score so easily against Bumrah is what the issue is here. And of course it would be, because Bumrah has never had anyone else score easily from him before. The other thing is that maybe there's a case for Bumrah to be bowling over the wicket more than around. The numbers suggest that Head prefers right arm seam around the wicket. He spent years working on this because he used to be very poor against it. These numbers hold up even more in Australia. Bumrah has bowled 80% of his deliveries around the wicket. Now, this is not like an absolute stat, but it's something they could consider implementing. And this may come from limited overs because you really want to cramp Head early on from that round the wicket angle. But perhaps in tests, it just doesn't work as well. There's also the bouncers. India could have bowled a lot more to him if they wanted to, especially when he's already set and he's scoring quickly. Why not just roll the dice even further? But 3 tests in, it is probably just fair to say that Head has the upper hand over Bumrah in the one-on-one battle. But it's hard to say if he's been the better player overall because both of these guys are completely carrying their sides. Australian cricket teams are famous for going very, very hard at the opposition captain in their thoughts that if they can get him a lot, they can destabilize the team. Their belief is that if you cut off the head of the snake, the rest will follow. India can win this series if Bumrah can cut off Head. Because at the moment, he's the leader of this lineup. Hell, he is the entire snake of Australia's batting. It took God and the demon to build international cricket, but don't tell Johnny Bairstow. 1882, Australia had played 1 test in England against the god W.G. Grace, and they sucked. So they were playing him again, and it was a tough wicket. But England was in front, so Australia was desperate for a 3rd innings lead. At number 8 was young all-rounder Sammy Jones. After a routine single, he walks down to do some gardening on the pitch. Grace whips off the bails and appeals. The ball wasn't dead, Jones was run out. The Australians were furious. In fact, some of the English players were also furious. But what Grace said went, and the umpires had already given it. Next in was Fred Spofforth. He was known as the Demon Fast Bowler. He was furious, and he let England know exactly what was coming next, which was maiden. There's 12 maidens. I can't count them all. England only needed 85 to win. W.G. Grace made 32. England only 77. That was the test where the Ashes began. Buy my book, Overthrowing Cricket's Empire, on Amazon today.